Now we see some of those same concerns carried forth to today. Now they have obviously morphed throughout history. At one point, our country went to war over the Southern concerns about elites in the North wanting to change their way of life for good reason, wanting to get rid of slavery, again, the backbone of the entire economy. But we see it in different forms today. When you hear people talk about states' rights, it's usually in a conservative context. There's a general mistrust of elites that has morphed into, as we know, several very odd conspiracy theories. Now, two things to remember when someone talks about states' rights, the follow up question should be states' rights to do what? The implied answer is usually pretty clear: to enslave or discriminate. This was a common sentiment, or has been in the conservative world, ever since the 50s and 60s, when Republican strategists began to try to court Southern whites who were disenfranchised from the Democratic Party after Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. So back to the Constitution. In this debate between the Federalists and Anti-Federalists, there was a lot of attempts to influence public opinion. You may remember, those of you familiar with the Hamilton musical, that Hamilton and John Jay and a third person whose name I'm blanking on, coming up blank, decided to write a series of papers called the Federalist Papers that tried to explain why they wanted this strong central government. Hamilton really went off and wrote a bajillion of them. You can read them if you want. I can point you to some interesting ones. They're kind of boring, to be honest. What's important to know is that what came out of this debate was ultimately a compromise. So on one side, the Federalists got the Supremacy Clause, which basically says that the United States Constitution supersedes that of all the state laws. So if it's in the Constitution, it means that no state can make a law to undo things. National law overrules state law. However, the Anti-Federalists got the Bill of Rights. So they said, okay, we have this section at the end of the Constitution where amendments can go in, which are changes. So they can add on things to the Constitution. However, we're going to put in the first 10 amendments, these Bill of Rights, that stipulate the rules for all of those future add-ons. So you can't make any future laws that abridge the right to free speech or religion or the right to bear arms, or you can't abridge trial by jury or the protection from cruel and unusual punishment. And in the 10th Amendment, it specifies the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states. So if it's not in the Constitution specifically, the states get that power. So this was supposed to create sort of a balance. So when we think about which level has which power, there are two general categories for powers. There are what we call enumerated powers, which are powers of the federal government that are explicitly in the Constitution. They're written right in there. If you look at the Constitution, Article 1 that describes Congress, there's a part at the end where they just list all of the powers of Congress. They say Congress can do this and this and this and this and this. Anything not in that Constitution are called reserve powers, and they are what the states get to do. So basically, you didn't include it in the Constitution, it's our power. The Constitution didn't say anything about getting to regulate speed limits or say whether you can keep a raccoon as a pet or not. That means the states get to decide those types of things.